Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks a lot for stopping by. Glad to have this man back. I'm honored every time. He's a country music superstar. I'm just going to say music superstar, John, because I don't think you just in one thing. I think that you speak for all people who love music. It's John Rich. John, how are you? Good to see you again.
I'm good, man. Good to be with you again.
You know, I want to bring this up. First of all, by the way, catch him tomorrow night. He's back on Fox Business this Saturday from 8 to 10 p.m. I think they rerun it from 10 p.m. to 12 a.m. Called The Pursuit with John Rich. I want to get into that full-throated in a second, but I want to start with music. You and I just talked about some music before we started today. I don't find you to be, as I said, a country music star. I think that you are a music star. You're a storyteller. And I'll tell you why I say that. You don't know that much about me, but I'm a jazz guy. Growing up, Charlie Parker, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, those were my guys. But the first artist I can ever remember all the words to a song from was Johnny Cash. And the reason why is because he was just a storyteller. John, isn't that what music really is? Do we have to classify ourselves in different genre? Isn't it just either you told the story right or you didn't?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to that. Even Johnny Cash would tell you that he was influenced by Elvis and a lot of other people, gospel music. I mean, a lot of influences went into what made the Johnny Cash sound. And I'm the same kind of way. I mean, I'm a fan of big band all the way to bluegrass to some pretty nasty rock and roll every now and then. So all of that kind of becomes your own thing, and that's what makes an artist. You know, you don't really sound like anybody else. You're kind of an amalgam of a lot of different things.
Well, and the thing about Johnny Cash was many of his songs he just spoke through. And then he sang, you know, the important parts, obviously, but he's like, sorry, a boy named Sue. And you're looking at it going, man, I'm just listening to a great story being told. It's almost like the theater of the mind. You could almost picture what he's saying by listening to it. And I think you're very much the same guy. No matter if you're playing it, singing it, producing it, whatever it happens to be, I know I'm going to get some sort of an emotional meaning, whether it's high, low, or in between from a John Rich song. And I don't know if that's intended or it's just who you are. Which one is it?
Well, I mean, the goal in a country song is to have the most impact with the fewest amount of words possible.
Yes.
So you want every single syllable to count in that song, which is what Johnny Cash did so well. If you write out the lyrics to a Johnny Cash song, maybe other than Boy Named Sue, but I Walk the Line or any of those classics, I mean, it won't take up half a page. I mean, there's hardly any words. It's just very simple. But man, when it lands like a hammer. I mean, Johnny Cash to me was the greatest singer-songwriter that ever was. That's why I named my first son Cash. Was after Johnny Cash. So yeah, it's definitely a goal. It's a mindset that I take on when I'm trying to write a song. Why do I need to write 3 pages of lyrics to get the point across if I can write it down in half a page and still make it stick?
It's John Rich. Go to redneckriviera.com. He's back with The Pursuit with John Rich tomorrow night. That's the 4th of May on Fox Business Network from 8 to 10, also from 10 to 12. I got to ask you, do you write the words first or the music first, or does it matter?
For me, it kind of all comes at the same time. A lot of times a phrase will enter my mind. I had a song called Progress that you put a spotlight on. Stick your progress where the sun don't shine. And so I had that thought, and I picked up a guitar, and it was just kind of there. Stick your progress where the sun don't shine. It was just there. Sometimes the words, in my mind anyway, just have a melody that they're meant to be with. It's not something I have to think about that hard.
Do the big record labels and the big companies, do they make a mistake by trying to popularize everything? It's almost like they don't care about the hook or the meaning. They care about how shiny the person is, or they care about how big a name the person happens to be, or how big their social following is. And it's almost like we lose the meaning in the process now. Does that bother you?
Well, it didn't used to be that way. Even when I was coming up, if you sounded at all like any other artist that was currently out, they would say, a record label would say, well, you're really talented, you got a great voice, but we've already got a George Strait, so we don't need another George Strait, or we've already got a Charlie Daniels, or whatever it would be. And nowadays, if you don't sound like everybody else, you won't get signed. They'll say, man, you've got a really different kind of a sound. I'm not really sure that fits anywhere right now. So it's a complete 180 of how they used to do things, which is why you have so much redundancy in country music right now. A lot of the characters that, if you think about, Willie and Waylon and Johnny Cash and Loretta Lynn, Tanya Tucker, even go into the Conway Twitties and people like that. I mean, they were standalone characters on top of the music. Dolly Parton, I mean, that's one of the greatest examples. So they've gotten away from that, and I think the music has suffered because of it.
It is John Rich, redneckriviera.com. He's also got the VFW program we'll talk about, got the bank that we'll talk about. I know that you've been watching very closely these stupid protests on college campuses. I think my favorite sign that I saw in the past few days, John, is Queers for Palestine. You know, go ahead and hold that sign in Gaza. Let's see how that works out. But they don't seem to understand there's a major disconnect there. And then through all of that garbage, we see these kids at like UNC who are like protecting and holding and revering the flag of the United States of America. That hit you like it hit me, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. You know, when I saw those young men standing underneath the flag, making sure it did not touch the ground, the first thought I had was, well, they were raised correctly because somebody told those boys a long time ago, hey, if you're ever handling the American flag, do not let it touch the ground under any circumstances. I don't care if you have to lay underneath it. I don't care if they're breaking your knees. You do not let it touch the ground. And that's exactly what they did. And when I saw that, I thought about, you know, the history lesson that I learned of Fort McHenry when Francis Scott Key wrote the Star Spangled Banner. And we all know that line that says, and our flag was still there. Well, the only way that American flag was still standing at the end of that battle was that the living patriots that didn't die in the battle were pushing the dead bodies of the patriots that died up against that flagpole. The flagpole was literally pushed down through a pile of dead patriots. And that's what was holding it up through the end of the battle, or it would have fallen. And so I saw those young men doing that, and I thought they are tapping back in, whether they know it or not, into the original patriot fire that built our country in the first place. So I reached out to them on Twitter, on X, and I said, hey, when you guys get ready to celebrate this moment that you're having, I'll come play you a free concert.
Wow.
Well, that set off a firestorm, man, and they hit me back and said, absolutely, let's get this in the works. So we're trying to pick a date right now. We're going to call it Flagstock, which I think is the perfect name for this. And I've had all these artists hit me up that said, hey, whenever that's going to happen, let me know and I will be there. One of those people was Lee Greenwood. He texted me and said, John, tell the boys I'd love to come sing God Bless the USA if they'll have me. I said, amazing. Lee, I'm pretty sure they want you to show up and sing that. So I think this is going to turn into a huge, huge event when we do it. And I also think that it's gonna kick off and ignite a fire across this country on college campuses with young people. Be a patriot. If you love your country, stand up and be heard. Maybe even do more than stand up. Maybe actually take a few steps forward. Make them deal with you for a minute, because I think Americans have had enough and young people have had enough. They're looking at their futures thinking, what kind of future do I even have? My border's standing wide open. The economy is completely screwed up. I got people ripping down American flags on my campus. I can't go to graduation now. I can't go to school without a vaccine, and on and on and on. They've been dealing with this. So they've got more to lose, in my opinion, than anybody, because they're just now embarking on their American dream and in their lives. So I am really happy to see that young people are finally standing up.
It's John Rich. Go to redneckriviera.com. You know, one moment in time that was captured in that picture can change everything. Because as you just alluded to, there are a lot of people on campus that agree with those guys. A lot of people on campus that agree with you and me, but they're afraid. They're being shouted down. They're being blocked from entering the campus. And it just takes one moment in time for people to say, wait a second, we can stand up against that. And then, John, we find out yesterday that at least 50% of those who were taken away and arrested at Columbia were not connected to the university whatsoever. They were all outside agitators. So you've got a small group of dumb children who are paying $100,000 a year to go to a private school in New York, who fall prey to a bunch of outside agitators. And like you said, you see that picture and you see the heartland of America and the heart of America that loves the flag, what it symbolizes, what it stands for. That moment might mean so much from now until well beyond the election that those kids had no idea that they were even in charge of. Did you hear about 50% were not even attached to the university?
Yeah, and that's not just did we hear about it. That's a fact. When they arrested them, they started finding out who was who, and it was more than 50%. And another crazy thing, George Soros must have an Amazon account. And let me tell you why I think that. Because if you look at the tents that were set up at all these different universities from coast to coast, they're identical. They're all identical tents. Go compare the pictures and look at them. George Soros must be sitting there on Amazon going, "Yeah, that looks like a pretty good tent. I'll take 600 of those. Send them here, and here."
And his favorite color is green, clearly, because they're all two-tone green tents. That's just a coincidence, though, isn't it, John?
Of course, Green New Deal. Yeah, whatever. So it's they have to fabricate their loyalties. They have to pay for their loyalty. And we don't have to do that. Our people are willing to stand there and take a beating for nothing on principle. And that is what America's about to find out, is just how principled patriots really are.
Music star John Rich. Go and check out his program, The Pursuit with John Rich. John, I apologize. I hadn't seen it when I was on before. Is it music? Is it talk? Is it all of that? Is it everything I mean, 2 hours is a long time to do a TV show. What can we see on Saturday?
So each episode is 30 minutes. So they're going to actually air 4 episodes back to back to back. It's a show I created, The Pursuit. It's based on the premise of America doesn't guarantee us happiness. It guarantees us the right to pursue happiness.
Yes.
And so in this show, I sit people down who have very strenuously pursued happiness in our country. And I tell their stories, ask them the questions from way back in the day all the way to where they are at the current moment. And it's people like, it's Tim Tebow, it's Dana White from the UFC,
nice.
Ricky Skaggs, Adam Carolla, let's see, Gary Sinise, Michael W. Smith, Jim Brewer. It's all kinds of people. And so if you're looking for a way to unplug from all the nastiness that you have to look at all day long, Saturday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central, and again on Sunday night, you can watch The Pursuit with me and really hear some great stories.
It's John Rich. Make sure that you do that. Make plans to do that. DVR it if you can't watch it as it's on. VFW program. I love Ben Carson and Larry Elder. Tell me what this is and how people can get involved.
So the VFW has a program called Return the Favor. And they reached out to me and said, hey, we think you could help us get the word out about this. Here's the problem. We've got millions of veterans in this country who are owed benefits and cash, a lot of times straight money that they're owed. But because of the red tape and all the forms and everything you got to fill out on the internet, they just give up after a while. They go, forget it. I can't figure this out. And so the VFW is hiring hundreds, even a couple of thousand people to sit down with our veterans and do that paperwork for them free of charge, no strings attached, and get their benefits back in their hands like they should have been since day one. So if you go to vfw.org and look up Return the Favor, there's a place you can donate. For every dollar that gets donated to this campaign, it generates more than $1,500 worth of benefits back to a veteran. I had never heard a statistic like that, where I donate $1 and it averages $1,500 back. They went, yeah, that's the number. I went, that's unbelievable. That just tells you how much money is laying out there that our veterans don't have at this point. So I would urge folks to check that out. If you have a business and you want your business to give to this, please do that, because those dollars go a really long way.
I mixed a couple of things together that I wanted to talk to you about. Old Glory Bank is what I'm talking about when it comes to Larry Elder and Ben Carson. And I'm not banking there yet, John. I've got a local bank here in Texas, but I'm open to going and checking it out and moving a lot of money there. Tell me why it's important that people get with a bank that you and Larry Elder and Ben Carson are involved in, that you founded, and why? Because monetarily, that's kind of how they're trying to control us. We saw with the truckers in Canada how easy it is for government to lock you down. All your hard-earned money is not accessible. You can't feed your family if you don't get in lockstep and do what the government wants. This is a big difference for people when they bank with you, right?
Yeah. So Dinesh D'Souza, Chase shut all of his accounts down while he was in Europe promoting a documentary, and he couldn't get back home. There's a gun company that their gun was used in a shooting, and the bank that bankrolls, and this is a lot of money. I mean, a big company. The bank decided they didn't want to have their accounts anymore, so they just turned them off. So it took about 3 months for that company to get back on their feet. So what people have to understand is the federal government, especially the ones running it right now, they absolutely fantasize about the day when they cancel John Rich's account. They tell the bank to turn off Joe's money.
Yeah.
And people have the misconception that a bank has to do what the federal government tells them to do. No, they don't. Because the federal government doesn't own the bank, okay? They don't own it. The federal government doesn't own banks. So it just so happens that the banks are in cahoots with the federal government. So when the feds tell the bank, freeze Joe's account, they go, you got it, Joe's freezed, boom, and they just knock you out. So Old Glory Bank is built on the premise that you will never be penalized for exercising your constitutional rights. It's as simple as that. So if somebody, let's say you came to Old Glory Bank, you opened that account, and Joe Biden's people said, freeze Joe's account. We don't like what he's talking about on his show. He's spreading misinformation. We would tell the federal government, we'll see you in court. We're not doing anything to Joe. He hasn't done anything wrong. And then we would go to court, And I can't wait for that day. And we will battle them in court and we will win. So oldglorybank.com is where you go if you want to check it out. Open an account. We're doing mortgages now and small business loans. It takes about 8 minutes to open a checking account.
Oldglorybank.com. Go there and go check it out. And you're so right. You said something that was kind of breaking news for a lot of people watching and listening. They're under the impression that the federal government says do it and you have to do it. But you're right. The reason why they're just getting in line and doing it is because they agree with the federal government. They'd like to shut down John Rich and Joe Pags. And thank God that you guys have the backbone to say, well, we're not playing that game anymore. I hope people are flooding to the bank, and I'm going to open an account. I'm going to do it today, John. You've got my word. It is John Rich. Go to redneckriviera.com. Check out his program on Fox Business tomorrow night between 8 o'clock and midnight. There are going to be plenty of shows running on there. I got to ask you one more question about music while I have you. And this isn't a commentary on whether she's a good artist or not. Beyonce's an amazing singer. Here's my problem, John, and I wonder if you don't want to comment on it, that's fine. But my problem is Beyonce did a country album, and the world told me I had to love it. The world told me I had to see her as country, and I had to see her as somebody who is now bringing the roots of country back to their rightful place, the black community. From Kamala Harris on down, told me I had to love it. And John, it's okay. I don't love the songs, but they're okay, and I don't mind her doing it. Any thoughts about them trying to cram down, you must love this because of identity politics or something?
Well, anytime anybody forces us to love anything, we automatically don't. At least I don't.
Exactly.
It's like anybody that automatically tells me you have to stick this in your arm or XYZ is going to happen. I go, well, now I'm definitely not damn taking it. It ain't happening now just because you said I had to. I mean, that's how Americans are. I'd say about the roots of country music, that is correct that there are roots from the African-American end of America that are absolutely are in country music, but there's also roots out of Appalachia.
Yes.
I mean, the original mountain music that came over from Ireland and Scotland and England and all those places, even Northern Europe. So, country music is an amalgam of all kinds of influences. So, like everything else, they try to spin it to a narrative to make you feel bad if you don't agree with them. But I don't begrudge anybody that wants to try to make a country song. Ultimately, the fans get to decide what they like. I don't see Beyonce selling a lot of country tickets anytime soon, but she is a great singer.
Yeah.
I will say that the Illuminati stuff that she likes to flash around in her videos and on Super Bowl performances and stuff, that tells me all I need to know about her.
100%. It's John Rich. Go to redneckriviera.com. Also go to oldglorybank.com and check him out on Fox Business. John, thanks for always making time for the program. I appreciate you.
Always, brother. Have a great one.
All right, my man. We're back after this. Stay right here.